I don't remember what day it was. Might have been a Tuesday. It felt like one of those gray, unremarkable weekdays where the sky can't decide if it wants to rain or not. You know the kind, where you just sort of exist, going through motions. But I remember exactly where I was standing when I heard it. In the hallway, 2 steps from the kitchen, just out of sight. I'd been heading back from the garage, arms full of groceries, when I caught her voice floating in from the living room. I don't even want to hug him anymore. It wasn't even said with anger. That's what stung. She was calm, casual, like she was talking about dinner plans, or the weather, or what show to binge next. Then came a soft laugh, hers, and another voice I recognized as her friend Melissa's. That made it worse. It meant it was real. Something she'd said to someone else, not in the heat of a fight, not in a moment of frustration, but as a fact, as truth. I stood there frozen, the plastic bag handles digging into my fingers, my brain scrambling for context that might soften the blow. But there wasn't any. No follow-up like, but I know I need to talk to him, or I feel bad. Just silence. The conversation shifted. I didn't hear what came next because all I could hear was my heartbeat in my ears. It's funny, I'd carried 1,000 bags into that house over the years. Groceries, laundry, trash, birthday surprises. But that day, it felt like I was carrying the whole weight of our marriage in 2 plastic bags. And I suddenly realized my arms were shaking. I didn't walk in. I didn't say anything. I just quietly turned, set the bags on the counter, and went up to our room. From that moment on, I stopped reaching for her. No more shoulder touches in the kitchen. No hand on her thigh when we watched TV. I stopped leaning in for that quick little hug from behind while she brushed her teeth. Stopped pulling her close in bed when she turned her back. Because why offer something someone's already thrown away? Now, I don't want to paint the picture like everything was fine before that. It wasn't. Things had been off for a while. Subtle at first, missed texts, distracted dinners, her staying late at work more often than usual. But I chalked it up to life. Stress, fatigue, maybe even boredom. It happens, right? I thought it was just a dip in the curve, something we'd ride out. You spend enough time with someone, you come to believe the bond is unbreakable. You survive the hard years, the fights, the dry spells, and you think, we're still here, that must mean something. But here's the problem. I was the only one still holding on. Looking back, maybe I clung too tightly. Maybe I mistook her emotional drift for temporary distance. I kept trying to bridge the gap with affection, not realizing I was the only one crossing. She used to melt into my arms. I remember our early days, how she'd tuck her head under my chin and exhale like she was finally home. She used to trace her fingers down my back when she hugged me, just lightly enough to give me goosebumps. We were touch, always. That was our language. And now, she didn't even want to hug me anymore. After that day, I became a shadow in my own marriage. I didn't lash out. I didn't cry in front of her. I didn't start any fights. I just stopped trying. I still did the chores, paid the bills, asked how her day was, but all of it on autopilot. I started leaving early for work, staying late, spending more time at the gym. I picked up little side projects, anything to keep me away from the silence of our shared space. She noticed the shift, eventually. One night, maybe a month after I overheard her, she asked, "Is everything okay with us?" I just shrugged. "Yeah, why?" She tilted her head like she was studying me. "I don't know, you've been quiet lately." That's when I almost laughed. Me? Quiet? She was the one who shut the door first. I just finally got the message. I wanted to tell her. Wanted to ask why she said what she said. Wanted her to explain it, take it back, say it came out wrong, say she didn't mean it. But instead, I gave her the safest lie I could. Just tired, I guess. She nodded like she accepted it. But I think a part of her knew. You can only ignore a slow unraveling for so long. The hardest part? I still loved her. Even in the silence. Even after those words. Even after I stopped reaching out, a part of me still hoped she'd reach back. That one morning she'd stop me on my way out and say, "Hey, what's going on with us?" Not out of routine, but because she felt it too. But she never did. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into a kind of numb normal. We became 2 polite roommates living parallel lives. The spark that once lit up the whole damn house was now a faint ember hiding in the ashes. We went to a dinner party once during that stretch. Friends of hers. I watched her light up in conversation, laugh with strangers, smile the way she used to smile at me. And it hit me like a punch to the ribs. She wasn't broken. She just didn't light up for me anymore. A few months later, something strange happened. I found myself on a bench outside a coffee shop downtown. I had taken the day off work, no real reason. I just couldn't be in the house. I was drinking a lukewarm latte and watching people pass by, couples holding hands, a dad swinging his toddler in a circle, a teenage girl crying on the phone. Life was just happening all around me, and I realized I'd stopped participating in my own. This wasn't grief. It wasn't anger. It was a quiet resignation. I wasn't mourning the end of something good. I was mourning how long I pretended it still was. That night, I didn't go home right away. I drove to the lake we used to visit early in our relationship. We'd watch sunsets from the hood of my old Civic. That car's long gone now, traded in for something more sensible. Like our love, I guess. I sat by the water for hours. Didn't cry. Didn't shout. Just stared at the horizon, wondering what it would take to finally walk away from something you once would have died for. And I still didn't have the answer. I didn't sleep that night by the lake. I stayed in the car with the windows cracked just enough to let in the scent of water and pine. I must have replayed her words 100 times in my head. I don't even want to hug him anymore. It wasn't even the rejection that haunted me. It was the casualness. Like it had already been true for so long she forgot it needed explaining. By sunrise, something inside me had settled. Not in a dramatic, stormy kind of way. More like sand finally sinking to the bottom of a glass. Clear. Still. I drove home. She was still asleep when I walked in. I stood in the doorway for a second, watching the rise and fall of her breath, the way the light from the hallway pooled around her silhouette. This was the woman I built a life with, the one I imagined growing old beside. And yet, she looked like a stranger. I turned, walked out, and didn't look back. I didn't leave that day. Not physically, but emotionally. I was already gone. We went on for another few weeks like nothing had changed. She didn't ask where I'd been that night. Maybe she didn't want to know. Maybe she already did. I kept going through the motions, but I stopped waiting for anything in return. I was done hoping for a soft touch, a lingering glance, a spontaneous laugh that cracked through the ice. I gave her space, not out of kindness, but because I couldn't keep bumping into the wall between us. And she filled that space with, I don't even know. Her phone was always nearby. Her attention, somewhere else. She started working late again. Or maybe she never stopped. I stopped asking. One night, she came home with takeout. Thai, my favorite. She set the bag down on the counter like it was some sort of peace offering and said, figured we could eat together for once. I said sure. We ate in silence. Halfway through, she looked up and asked, are you mad at me? I blinked. What? You've been distant. Cold. The nerve of that, her calling me cold, nearly made me laugh. I put down my fork and met her eyes. Why would I try to be close to someone who doesn't want to be touched? Her face went pale. She knew. Maybe not the exact moment I'd heard her, but she knew what I meant. She didn't say anything, just nodded and kept chewing like her mouth wasn't suddenly full of concrete. And that was the last meaningful thing we said to each other for weeks. I started sleeping in the guest room after that. No conversation. No explanation. I just grabbed a pillow, walked down the hall, and shut the door behind me. She didn't follow. Didn't ask why. That silence was louder than any argument. I made a plan. Not the kind you scribble in a notebook at 3 a.m. The kind you carry out quietly, step by step. I called a buddy from college who had moved out west. Asked about job openings. Housing. He said he'd keep an eye out. No questions. I started putting money aside. I opened a private account. I printed out documents I'd need to take with me. Slowly, methodically, I carved an exit route. And through it all, I acted like nothing was happening. I still brought in the mail. Still fixed the leaky sink. Still asked if she wanted anything from the grocery store. But I stopped being her husband. I was a tenant, biding time. The end came quietly. She brought home a bottle of wine one Friday night. Like some part of her remembered that we used to toast the weekend. She poured us both a glass. Sat down across from me. And for a moment, I saw the version of her I used to love. She said, I think we should talk. I nodded. Go ahead. She hesitated. I don't know what happened to us. I raised an eyebrow. You sure? She looked away. I feel like I lost you, she said. I nodded again, slower this time. Yeah, you did. She took a sip of wine, set the glass down. Is there someone else? That one almost made me laugh again. The irony of it. No, there doesn't need to be. Her voice dropped. Then why does it feel like you hate me? I looked her in the eyes for what felt like the first time in months. I don't hate you. I just stopped trying to be loved by someone who doesn't want to love me. She didn't cry. Neither did I. That would have implied emotion. We were too far past it. Too hollow. She asked if I wanted to fix it. I asked her if she even wanted to try. We both knew the answer. The next morning, I packed a bag. Told her I'd be staying with a friend for a bit. Just to think. I never came back. A few weeks later, the papers were in the mail. I didn't leave a note. Didn't make a scene. I left like I had loved. Quietly, completely, and all at once. She called. I didn't answer. She texted. Can we talk? Please don't do this. I didn't mean what I said. But some things, once said, echo forever. I never blocked her. I just didn't respond. There's a difference between revenge and self-respect. I wasn't punishing her. I was protecting what little of myself I had left. It's been almost a year now. I moved 2 states over. Got a small place. Nothing fancy, but the kind of place where I can hear myself think. I take walks more. Started writing again. Something I gave up when we were always too busy to make space for silence. I don't date much. I'm not ready, I think. Or maybe I'm just scared of being invisible again. But I've learned to sit with the quiet, to let it tell me things I used to drown out with hope and excuses. You'd be surprised what you learn about yourself when you're no longer busy trying to be someone else's idea of enough. Sometimes I think about that hallway. That 1 second where everything changed. Where a simple sentence shattered the world I thought I knew. I don't even want to hug him anymore. You can spend years building something with someone. And then one moment reveals it's already been falling apart, slowly, without your permission. But here's what I've learned. If someone stops reaching for you, you don't have to keep holding out your hand. Eventually, you owe yourself more than just the illusion of closeness. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for them and for yourself, is to let go quietly and never look back.